guys, welcome back. Today we'll be doing the Booktube Newbie Tag, something that I have not done, which was maybe a mistake, I don't know, but this was long overdue. So I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's get right to it with the first question. Why did I start this channel? I started this channel mostly for therapeutic reasons, because I can't really talk about books, or fantasy books especially, with my partner, my girlfriend, or my friends. I have this one good friend who also loves fantasy, but he's been stuck with the same books for the last few years, I think, in the sense that he rereads a lot and doesn't really have a lot of time now. So he stays in his comfort zone. I think he's reread The Wheel of Time and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that multiple times, you know, the classics, but hasn't really read a lot of contemporary fantasy. So I think this is mostly for myself, because I'm driving my wife crazy, or my girlfriend crazy. Rambling, actually. Sometimes I just get so excited I start to ramble about my books and she just doesn't get a word of what I just said. And it was kind of not really painful, but I think it's a better idea to share it with the world, something that I always wanted to do but never had the guts to do it. And I have to thank some other YouTubers for this, mostly the guys from the Unabridged Burners, Malice and Discord. I will link their YouTube channels down below. There are, I think, about 5 of them, but yeah, you'll see. On to the next question. Something fun and unique I can contribute, or I can bring to Booktube, is mostly that I haven't read a lot between 16 and 25 years of age. As a kid, I read a lot of younger fantasy, being Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Anthony Horowitz, you know, stuff like that, and not really a lot of books either. I read when I had to read, but I did grow to love Harry Potter, which I read probably about 15 times, if not more. So I think that the one thing I can really contribute is the perspective from an older person, from someone that is 29 and has just gotten into fantasy again. I have only been starting actual fantasy for about 3 to 4 years. Well, that, and of course my unpopular opinions, because I have this perspective on life. It sounds a bit dramatic, but I have this perspective on life which might put some of the classic books into a different perspective. I have read Lord of the Rings, but it's been over 10 years. I think the last time I've read them I was 16 or 17. Yeah, I read them before the first Hobbit movie came out, and that was in 2012. That's over 10 years ago. I read them when the Hobbit film got announced, so I must have been about 18, I think 2009, 2010. So it's been 12 years since I've read those books. And my life has changed in an immeasurable way since then. I haven't read a lot of the classics. I haven't read Wheel of Time. I haven't read Dune. I haven't read Rift War. I haven't read Earthsea, stuff like that. So yeah, it might be a new take or a hot take because of a new perspective, in my opinion. For example, my Kings of the Wild DNF might be the consequence of my other perspective, or my different perspective on life. But before I get too dramatic, I'll continue on to question number 3, which is, why do I enjoy reading? I enjoy it because ever since I moved here, it's been a very different world, in the sense that I came from this safe, cozy place with my parents where I didn't have to do a lot, and I didn't have a lot of responsibilities, to my own home and a job and renovations and responsibilities and stuff like that. So it calms me and drags me away from the stress of reality, so to speak. That's also a bit of an overstatement, but you know, it's to make things clear. And next to that, I just enjoy a good story. I enjoy a good story, and I enjoy learning things about, or enjoy reading about stuff I'm passionate about, which is something I think I share with most people. What series got me into reading? I had to think long and hard for this one because I knew which one it was, but I couldn't for the life of me remember because I only knew the titles in Dutch, and when I translated them, it came to a series that did not match. And it's actually The Power of Five by Anthony Horowitz, but the original version, which was the Pentagram series, which was unfinished, actually. The first 4 books had been released, I think, in the late 80s and beginning of the 90s, but I read those books when I was 6 or 7 years old. I think I started to read those books because they were easy, for me at least, and they had fantastical and magical elements, which is something that I really enjoy. But when I noticed that these books were not finished, I went on to read Harry Potter, and I have read those for about 15 times ever since. Yeah, those were the 2 series that got me into reading. Next question. What questions will I ask my favorite booktubers? I think that's a hard one because I would only ask them some basic tips and tricks off the top of my head, but something that I would love to know is what kind of guilty pleasures do they have, in the sense that books that are not really that well known or that they think are embarrassing or wouldn't get them viewers, do they still love? So I think some obscure recommendations would be my number 1 question for those guys, because I think a lot of them have the same taste as I do. Let's say Mike's book reviews, he has a lot of the same taste I do. Daniel Green, not so much, but he does read some books that I have read already and have loved very, very deeply. Speaking of Booktube, the challenges that I think will be hardest to overcome: consistency and motivation. Consistency because I have a very busy life. Not right now, because during winter months it's a bit calmer or slower at the restaurant where I work. But between May and September, or beginning of May and end of September, it's always very busy, because our church has been named a basilica. We have a lot of people from all around, all over Belgium that come here, and May is the pilgrimage month around here. So yeah, we have a lot of clients that we don't usually see throughout the year. And after that it gets warmer, it's starting to get summer. So it's very busy. And when you put that in combination with the home renovations that are going on here, and that will probably last for about another 2 years, considering we've just made plans for a new part that we were only going to do in a few years, but we think that it's a better time now, before we have children. But yeah, that's a story for another day. I think my life will not be getting any less busy anytime soon. On the contrary. So consistency will be hard, but I will try, and this is a promise, I will try with all my might to keep it on Monday, Tuesday and Thursday for uploads. And my motivation will be the other challenge, in the sense that when I see the subscriber count or the view count dropping or staying the same and not growing, it will be hard on the one hand to keep my motivation, but on the other hand, I think because it's a bit therapeutic for me as well to speak about these books and to talk about what I love, that it will be a lesser problem than the consistency. I think the other problem, something that I just thought of, say for consistency and motivation, will actually be time. While I was speaking about the time restraints that I have, I will probably not be able to read as much as some other content creators, as a lot of other content creators, because I can't do audiobooks while working. But yeah, I'll try to fit that in. We'll see how it goes. The next question is one of the easiest ones, for me at least. When did I start reading? And the answer to that is simple, because it's been as long as I can remember. I've read ever since I could. First comics, then short stories, then children's books, and so on and so forth. But then I did quit reading for a long time, or at least diminished it to a great degree, and have only recently started to read again consistently for the last 3 years. The actual easiest question is the next one, because I've already made a video of it, and it's places I read, or where do you read? I recommend you checking out my video for that, but I will indulge you in the sense that I actually read in the usual suspect places: the couch, the bed, the garden, on the train, and on the plane. So yeah, public transport, and just around the house. But I recommend you checking out the video, which will be linked here, and probably it will be linked as well in the description. On to the final question, and probably the most essential for a booktube channel. What kind of books do you read most? Or do you like to read? I like to read a lot of different books, fiction and non-fiction, mostly fantasy, and with fantasy I mean almost every kind of fantasy. Urban fantasy, military fantasy, flintlock fantasy, epic fantasy, high fantasy, low fantasy, paranormal fantasy, science fantasy, so like Dune, portal fantasy, progression fantasy, the list goes on and on and on. I also like to read sci-fi, hard and soft, depending on the mood I'm in. Next to that, I enjoy history books and historical books about some certain subjects. I love biographies of interesting people. I love books about heavy metal. And if you combine those, I love biographies of metal icons like Ronnie James Dio, like Ozzy Osbourne, like Lemmy, like Edward Van Halen, stuff like that. And I have read multiple of those. Next to that, and I think, some thrillers I enjoy as well, some mystery books I enjoy as well. I've recently bought some books about Sherlock Holmes, about Arsène Lupin as well, from the hit Netflix show. And yeah, I do enjoy those if they're not too easy, because the last Dan Brown novel I figured it out by about half the book, I think. Origins, it was not that great. But yeah, I mean, that's a small percentage of the books I've actually read. But that was it. Those were all the questions I received, or I found, for the Booktube Newbie Tag. I'll just round off here, I think. Yeah, I look forward to every interaction with you guys. I will be expecting some comments, some different opinions, some contradictions, some commentary as well, maybe some criticism. Of course, debates are always welcome, recommendations are always welcome, and I promise I will respond to every single one of them. Even if you email me directly, even if you message me here or on Twitter, I will respond, I promise. And I also promise to keep it, or try to keep it, Monday, Tuesday and Thursday for my upload schedule. And as far as I'm concerned, the only thing that's left for me is to say goodbye. Mission accomplished. See you guys.